All right, welcome everyone to our weekly agency Zoom call, and got some great stuff to share with you tonight. So let's start with our leaderboard and let's recognize people that stepped up and did it last week. I'm going to jump in, and so this idea is, as I mentioned on the announcement for this call, the 11th commandment is "Thou shalt not fooleth thyself." And so this is really more in line with the theme that I'd mentioned earlier, is to, especially for new agents that are getting started with us, particularly the ones that have never been in insurance before. There's certain patterns of things that we see over, you can imagine, 25 years. So I've seen a lot of patterns that indicate to me that they're not long for this business. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to educate all of you, and typically the people that should be on this call are not on this call. So I'm probably preaching to the choir, okay? But I'm still going to go through it. Hopefully at some point someone's going to get the email blast and maybe click on the video, watch this. I'm praying that they do, because I don't want them to continue a life of mediocrity, because doing these mindsets that guarantee failure will really condemn them to a life of mediocrity, like seriously. And I threw this together pretty quickly, just off the top of my head. I didn't do any research on stuff. I just put this together. So the title of this is Mindsets That Will Guarantee Failure. Do you want to make money sooner or later? And really probably another tagline is, do you want to be the mediocre the rest of your life? Because these mindsets are going to guarantee you mediocrity for the rest of your life. And mediocrity is a habit, like success is a habit, as an addiction to keep going down the wrong road in your life. And you can't veer off it just because you're stuck in it. And unless something changes, those habits that you've created of mediocrity will continue railroading you down that road, where when you're 50, 60, you're always going to be wondering, oh my gosh, what should have I done 25 years ago, right? 30 years ago. So rather than live with the pain of regret, we're going to let my hindsight be your foresight, okay? So let's get into this. Mindset that will guarantee failure.
Go where the fear is. At the end of the day, what this world needs is people who are different. Anything is possible.
Tucked within the message of this old letter written in 1965, a short string of words, this little piece of advice casually offered within the surrounding statements. These few and powerful words that I think we need to hear today. It was American artist Saul LeWitt who wrote this letter to his good friend Eva Hesse, who was struggling with self-doubt. Within the letter, he was pushing her to just stop thinking, worrying, looking over your shoulder, wondering, doubting, fearing, hurting, hoping for some easy way out. He said, stop it, and just do. Then he writes this little line I hope we can all hear the way we need to. If you fear, make it work for you. We need to hear it, don't we? How else do we overcome what Ralph Waldo Emerson said defeats more people than any other one thing in the world? Fear. Because it's real. And there's no getting around the fact that it will show up. It should show up. Sometimes we fear for good reason. And sometimes we fear for absolutely no good reason at all. So this is about using fear to open your life, not close it in.
Are we going to sit there and wait until somebody leaves one of these doors of opportunity for us to fly through? Or are we going to start knocking on these doors, even though we might be scared of what's on the other side? Do we go where the fear is?
We misunderstand this emotion, fear. There are easy statements: fear nothing, be fearless, rise above it. But sometimes there is no rising. In fact, that's not why fear exists, to just get over it. Instead, it gives you a single choice: move further away or move closer. We hear that voice in our head, the story in our head. You can't speak in front of all those people. They're all staring at you. You can't keep up with them. They're smarter than you. They're faster. They're stronger. You're not qualified enough to apply for that job. Someone else is going to get it anyways. You're not a leader. You never were.
Yes, we go where the fear is. And I'll tell you why. Because all of us have dreams. And those dreams are real and they can come true.
Fear is real. It's just that the story we're telling ourselves isn't. Our minds race. They fill in the blanks. We run from a made-up worst-case scenario that may not be that bad after all. So instead of all that, as the old letter says, stop it and just do. You see, if you fear, make it work for you.
We don't need the lie. We don't need the bravado or the charade. People have fear. And sometimes we accept it, and sometimes we move through it. Adele has a fear of large audiences. Richard Branson has a fear of public speaking. Jennifer Aniston has a fear of flying. It hasn't stopped them. Could you imagine if it had?
So what if this next chapter of your life, of your work, of your relationships was focused around these few words, written in 1965? If you fear, make it work for you. Because there's no getting around it. So feel it. Accept it. Question it. And then stop and just do.
So here are some of the typical things that we hear, which are sometimes the death knell of a new agent. First one is I need to know all the products first. And it is kind of interesting, this idea that they need to know all the products. Do you know how many products? There are hundreds of products among 55 carriers. Okay, so do you mean all the life products or just the final expense products? Or do you mean final expense and term products or the final expense, term, and IUL products? And then how about the accidental death products, which, oh, by the way, you need a health license for? Then how about all the IULs and the annuity products for retirement planning? Or do you also mean all the Medicare products, Medicare Supplement, Medicare Advantage? You know, you could just do Medicare Supplement. You don't need to do the AHIP, but you need AHIP to do Medicare Advantage. So are you talking, you just want to do Medicare Supplement, or do you want to do Medicare Supplement and Medicare Advantage? Oh, by the way, of this thing called estate planning, did you want to learn that too? You can do IULs, whole life, term products, accidental, Medicare, disability, heart attack, stroke, cancer. Did you want to learn all those products? Like, define for me what you mean all products so that you're going to be ready to go out there. Because I didn't. I just learned one product, one company, and then I just started making dials because, you know, I knew I had to get out there and do something. And, you know, it's kind of interesting because that statement, that's like saying, I need to learn how the automobile works before I can drive the car. I need to learn about internal combustion engines. I need to learn about how automatic transmission works. I need to know what type of suspension of the car I'm going to be driving, right? I need to know the basic mechanics of how a car works before I can actually drive the car. Do you understand how ridiculous that sounds? But it's saying the same thing. I need to know all the products first before I feel comfortable going out there. It's like, dude, seriously, you will never feel comfortable. Are you looking to feel comfortable? Because every agent that ever sold life insurance that started never felt comfortable because they didn't know everything, right? They didn't know everything, but we all just got started. You just have to get started. It's like, how do you drive a car without driving a car, right? It kind of seems kind of nonsensical statement, right? But that's the same thing as I need to know all the products first. So define all, define which, because the first question you should ask is, well, what products do I need to learn first so I can start getting out there in the field? That's the best question. We've already narrowed it down to the core bridge, because you're going to be selling primarily final expense. So final expense is whole life. And Corebridge has all three types of whole life products: the full day one benefit, the graded benefit, and the guaranteed issue, right? So that's why we only guide you to only a few products. That's why we try to, put the blinders on so we can get you going. You're never going to be able to know it all. Never, right? Even have as many years as I've been in this, I'm still learning. That's why you see me on Zoom calls for the Alliance, because I'm still learning stuff, right? I mean, I still get on there. I don't know how many guys at the SBM level people are on those calls, but I know I am. Typically, when someone says this, it's usually a sign of fear of dialing the phone and engaging with prospects, because it's just fear. It really is just fear. Like the video said, yeah, acknowledge it, feel it, accept it, and then run to it. It's kind of like buffalo. Buffalo, they don't run away from a storm. They head straight into it as fast as they can. They go into the storm because they know if they get through the storm, they're going to get through it quicker than being chased by it. All right, it's the same kind of idea. Again, this is why we teach corporate financial products first. Here's the thing. Just start dialing the phone, create appointments, create experience, create skill. You're developing skill. And if you should book an appointment, we'll prepare you for that appointment, right? We're going to prep you for that appointment. We're going to get you, and you're more motivated. Like imagine if we told you that you had to learn 20 different products before you start dialing, you'll never start dialing, right? So book the appointment first, and then you're going to be motivated to learn what you're going to be able to show them. To me, that's the real motivation, is a real appointment. Finally, don't be scared. Or I should say, be scared, but then do it anyway. Just that video was. Here's the next loser mindset, broke mindset, whatever you want to call it. Mindset that will guarantee failure. Oh, I'll use my own script. Okay, let me ask you, is your own script based on 20 years of being a life insurance agent, averaging $25,000, $30,000 a month in premium? No. Have you ever sold life insurance before? No. Why do you think you could create your own script? Well, I just want to do what's really comfortable for me. When did I ever say you should be comfortable? You'll never be comfortable. I don't care what script. Why wouldn't you use what works? Here's the thing that remember the part that we don't make money until you make money. So if creating your own script would make you money quicker, do you think that I would say that you should create your own script because you'll make money way faster because my money is based on you making money? Well, there's probably a reason why you've never heard me say that on anything, right? It's like, why create your own script? You don't know what you're doing. Why don't you learn for the people that are successful and learn their script, right? You got to start with what's working from agents that are successful. At some point, when you're doing 10, 15, 20,000 a month, maybe then you could start crafting it more to your personality and your style. But until then, why reinvent the wheel? The wheel has already been invented. Why make it harder on yourself to be moving forward? I just don't understand that, right? It's the analogy of, do you want to be the first person to walk through a minefield, or do you want to be the last person? Would you rather have 30 people before you blow themselves up so that you know that the pathway you're walking is free and clear of landmines, right? So let their experience be your wisdom. Again, typically, this is a sign of not being teachable, right? We can't help you, man. If you're not teachable, we can't help you. If you're not teachable, then you might as well quit. Like, I mean that sincerely, that if you do not choose to be teachable, then this is not a place for you. 100% commission sales is definitely not where you should be. You should do something else, because 100% commission sales is not, if you're not teachable. I'm just being honest. Here's the one that really kind of cracks me up. Well, you got so many Zoom calls. When's anyone going to ever make money? Why do I need to be on the Zoom calls? I mean, I don't get anything from the Zoom calls. And it just cracks me up when people say that. So my question for you is, well, are you already producing $25,000 a month of issue pay business? Because if you are, maybe you don't need to be. But if you're not, do you think maybe you can learn something? But you have to have that attitude of being willing to learn. That's really more of an arrogant attitude where you don't want to learn. And that really comes out of ego and arrogance, right? I don't need to be on the Zoom calls. Again, another symptom of not being teachable. This is classic, man. This is like saying, well, I don't need to go to class to get an A in the class. I'm just going to go take I don't need to do the homework. I'll just take the final and I'll pass. Really? So that you're that brilliant where you don't think you need to go to class to get an A in the class. And what I mean by getting an A, it's making money with us. Whatever your goals are, $2,000 a week, $500 a week, whatever that is, that's what you want. We're trying to help you get your goal, but how can you get that if you don't go to class, if you don't do the homework? That's all we're asking you to do. And that's what the Zoom calls are. And well, I'm working when you have the Zoom calls. Oh, you must be working at night? Interesting. That's why we have it at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, so we don't have it during the daytime. Now look, if you work a second shift, then when we send out the Zoom call for you to watch offline, then you should watch it, right? But you just want it easy. Then when you come to the Zoom calls, come with questions asked, particularly the sales Zoom call. Chances are other agents have the same question, but they're too afraid to ask it. So that's why you need to ask the questions so you can help your other fellow agents. Here's the thing, either the Zoom call needs you or you need the Zoom call. Like there could be something really beautiful that you can add to help someone else out when they ask a question. I'm not one to give all the the answers. Like if there's another person that can give an answer, God bless you, man. Someone who's overcome whatever that issue you have is with whatever they can teach you. And I'm all open for that. So I think you ought to be on the Zoom calls, having the yes, but attitude. This cracks me up. These are people that listen only to say yes, but. They don't hear what you say. They're just waiting for you to pause. They can say, well, yes, but this is why I did that. Or this is why I only did 30 calls last week. Yes, but. See, here's the thing. If you always try to justify why your way works better to us, when it clearly is not because you're not getting the results, then clearly your ego is totally getting in the way. And an unbridled ego will keep you broke for the rest of your life, I promise you. Yes, but attitude will kill you every time, man. Here's the attitude. What can I learn from this? What can I learn from my failures, from my apparent failures, from my lack of results? What can I learn from it? And how can I improve, right? How can I improve? How can I ask someone who's better than me, who knows better than me, how can they help me? It's total submission of your ego. Now, ego is not an unhealthy thing. An unbridled ego is an unhealthy thing. But having an ego is healthy. It's kind of the basis of self-image, right? Here's the thing. We want you to win. So we're not going to judge you as a person. We're just going to judge what we see. All we can see is what you do, right? The Zoom calls you're on, whether you have an attitude of wanting to learn, and then are you putting action? Are you dialing the phone? Are you doing what you say you're going to do? Are you accountable? Okay. We're not going to judge you whether you're a good or bad person. We're just wanting to judge what is your motivation and what are your results so that we can help you. Again, typically the yes but attitude is a sign of a low self-image, and we can help you overcome a low self-image, right? We've got a lot of different things that we can do, book reading, getting around, people that are jamming in this thing so you can raise your self-image to the level. Because here's one thing that we say in the Alliance all the time: your income will never out-earn your self-image. Never, ever, ever, ever. The reason why you're broke is your self-image sucks. The reason why you're broke is because your self-image sucks. Again, ego, the yes but attitude is a sign of a low self-image. We can help you with that. Well, I'll try dialing 10 dials and see what happens. It's so funny how, the activity reports seem to be in multiples of 10. 30 dials. Do you know how long it takes to do 30 dials? Like 1 hour. When people only get through part of their leads because they got beat up and it's like, oh, well, I need to study my product. What does studying your product have anything to do with the number of dials you're making, right? To me, dial counts totally explain to me everything about you. Whether when you believe in the business, whether you believe in yourself, your dial counts will tell me everything I need to know. It is freaking the key indicator. Cracks me up, but I know exactly who you are. You tell me everything about who you are when I see your dial counts. Look, you have to be willing and committed to at least dialing $250 to $500 a week, in my opinion, whatever it takes to make the business happen. Because if you're not willing to do it, then you'll never develop the mental toughness to make it in 100% commission sales. You might get lucky. You might do well your first week out of pure luck, right? On just 15 dials. That's never going to sustain you. Never. And then after you do that, you turn some business in, you did 15 dials. Next week, you're going to find, oh man, this is tougher. How come this week's not like last week, right? Remember the part about willing. You got to be willing to do whatever it takes. And that whatever it takes attitude is really based on, what do you want out of this? Are you willing to walk down the same road that I walked, that all the top agents have walked? Because if you're willing to, then man, we got something to work with, right? It's just whatever it takes attitude that makes it with us. That's why low intent leads, bang bang leads work, because they're cheap, they're fresh, and that you can go through them and get your skill level up, right? And the old leads that we give you for free, that's just an opportunity for you to get your skill level up. But it's more than anything else, you need the reps to develop your skill. Why in the heck would you ever spend, a large amount of money on leads when your skill level isn't there yet? Does that make sense? These are a way for you to develop your skills so that you can start getting learn how to get return on investment on the more expensive, higher quality leads. Developing skill on expensive, high intent leads will kill you, I promise, right? So look at it as an opportunity to do $500 a week, man. If you're willing to do that, I'm willing to work with you and get you where you need to go. But more than anything else, you're going to develop calluses, right? You're going to develop what you need to develop in order to make it in our business. Here's the attitude that cracks me up. Typically, these are from veteran agents that have been in the business for 30, 40 years. Yeah, I already do that, Alex. Oh, what do you mean? Well, I follow the script. Oh, you do? Really? That's what cracks me up, is when they say, well, I follow the script. I go, okay, well, let me hear it. And then they fumble over the script. It's nothing nothing anywhere near where it should be. They haven't practiced it, which tells me they didn't really do it the way they say they did it. Because when I hear them do the script, it's totally foreign to me, right? And typically when they're doing the script, they're not doing it with the right intent, with the right feeling. They don't vocalize it properly. Just that's how repetition will get you the skill level that you need, right? And then getting coaching from us and, doing role play with Joy or Mary. So if you're assuming you're already doing it the way it should be done, then you should be getting the results all the top leaders and top producers are getting. But if you're not getting, those results, then there's something you're doing wrong, right? Sometimes what you think you're doing and what you actually are doing are two totally different things. It's kind of like, remember back in the day when American Idol came out really early in its seasons? They always showed the person who's terrible at singing, but in their head, they thought they were singing like Adele, or they thought they were singing like all the top singers in their head. But what actually came out was totally different. They had zero self-awareness of how they really sounded. That's you thinking that you're following the script when in fact you are so far off the script, you are just clueless. You're just exactly like those terrible performers on American Idol. See, when you're assuming you're duplicating, you're not duplicating. The only way you're duplicating is that you're role playing with someone that can hear you do it so they can tweak you. It's kind of like diagnosing your golf swing. How many of you can self-diagnose your golf swing, right? I don't know too many pros. Pros could probably do it, but that's why they have swing coaches, right? You're trying to fix your slice and you think you've done all your research on YouTube and you're still slicing the ball. Obviously, how can you see what you're doing if you're not outside yourself seeing you, right? Maybe videotaping yourself and watching videotape might help you, right? That's why you record your calls. But it's hard to know that you're duplicating without an outside person validating. Your results are what determines whether or not you're duplicating. If you're getting the results, then chances are you're probably doing the phone script correctly. So here's a summary of all this. Get your ego in check, dudettes. It's the ego that will kill you. The unbridled ego that you think you know better, right? Here's the other thing. It's fear. Like, come on, man. Your excuse for wanting to learn product is really the way that you mask your fear of dialing the phone. So it just gives you another thing to do. It's so funny how people will say, well, I just need to really study the phone script. I'll start dialing next week at the same time. It's like, okay, you're telling me that 7 more days of studying is going to get you to where you're ready to dial the phone. Really? How about if you just start dialing the phone for a week, you're going to be further along a week from now, dialing the phone for a week, then studying dialing the phone, and then starting next week. Does that make sense? You have to get out your comfort zone. There's no way that success and comfortableness can exist in the same universe. The only way to be successful is to get out of your comfort zone. Look, as I said, it's never as easy as you think it will be when you first got started, but it'll always be worth it if you make the effort and submit to coaching early and often. Always assume it's you and not the leads. We can make all kinds of excuses for the leads, but I can show you agents that are successful on those leads. So how do you explain that other agents are successful? The best way, the best mentality to have to be successful is assume it's you. There are no external factors. Assume it's you first, and then let's figure out how to fix you so you can be successful, okay? We're here to help, all right? Again, we're not going to judge you as a person. We're only going to judge your results and then try to figure out how we can coach you to help you move forward, okay? We're your friends. We're on the same side. We are not your boss. We're your coaches. But when I see you going off track and you tell me how much you love your family and you want to spend more time with your kids and your family deserves much more income so you can provide them opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise, well, is that just words or do you really mean that? Because if you really mean that, we're here to help, right?
One of the things you see with people all the time is that maybe they're trying to stumble forward towards their ideal, as poorly defined as it might be, but then they're afraid, right? They're afraid about what they might encounter, and that stops them because fear does stop people. It freezes you like a prey animal, and so people move ahead, but then they get afraid, and then they stop moving ahead. And that's not so good because negative emotion is a really powerful motivator. So we're more motivated by negative emotion than positive emotion. Quantitatively speaking, you can measure that. And that's, I think, because we can only be so happy, but we can really be suffering and dead, So we have to pay more attention to the negative. And that's bad because the negative can stop you. And then in my clinical practice, I often talk to people who are trying to make a difficult life decision, and they're weighing out the costs and the benefits of making the life decision, you know? And one of the things I always talk to them about is, wait a second, that's an incomplete analysis. You have to weigh out the benefits and the costs of doing this. And you have to weigh out the costs and benefits of not doing it. And that's not the same as the zero that you assume that you're starting with, right? Because to not make a decision, it also has a cost. And sometimes the cost of not making a decision is far worse than the cost of making a decision, even if the decision is risky. And so one of the things you can derive from that, and this is very useful, I think, is that this is also, I think, why it's so useful to contemplate your mortality, so to speak, is you're screwed no matter what you do. You know, and that actually frees you, is that you have path A that has catastrophes and you have path B that has catastrophes, and you don't get to have the no catastrophe path, but you get to pick which one. And that's really something, because if you know that there's terrible risk associated with everything that you do and don't do, then you can afford to take some risks, because you're not, you know, and this is all within the ark metaphor. I'm still making the case that despite the fact that your life is essentially catastrophic, you can make a covenant with the highest ideal, and that will take you through it the best way possible. I'm still making that case. So then you think, okay, well, I'm trying to make this decision. I'm going to go try to do something difficult, and isn't that terrifying? And then you think, yeah, but wait a minute. What's really terrifying is not doing it. And then you think about the cost of not doing it. So in the future authoring program, we have people do this little meditative exercise, which is, okay, just think about your insufficiencies by your own definition, right? The way that you don't do what you know you should do. About the things that you do that you shouldn't do, that you know you shouldn't do beyond a shadow of a doubt, right? There's some things like that. That's bad habits and poor aim and all of the resentment and hatred and aggression and unresolved conflicts and all those things that are dementing you and warping you, and then think, okay, those things get the upper hand, man. They get the upper hand, and they take you the worst possible place you could go in the next 3 to 5 years. What exactly does that look like? And so you sketch all that out, and you think, hey, I don't want to go there. And so the next time that a temptation comes up, you think, well, it'd be a lot better for me if I didn't succumb to this temptation. It's like, that's kind of weak, eh? You'd look a little better if you didn't eat like a cheesecake a day or something like that. You know, that's something, but it's not the same as, I'm going to have diabetes and I'm going to lose my damn leg in 5 years if I don't get my eating under control. That's motivating. And so then the temptation comes along and you think, oh, how about no? Seriously, how about no? Not just because a higher good would be obtained if I avoided it, but because a terrible catastrophe would be averted if I didn't. And so, well, so you want to get your fear behind you, right? You want to get it behind you where it's pushing you forward instead of in front of you where it's stopping you. And you get your fear behind you, pushing you forward by actually thinking through the consequences of not putting your life together. And the least of those is that you waste it and suffer, right? Because you're going to suffer anyways, man. So you waste it and suffer. That's a bad deal. Because maybe if you're going to suffer, you could at least do something noble and glorious and upright and powerful and honorable and admirable and helpful and difficult. You know, that's just so much better. And maybe that's good enough so that you think, hey, you know, little suffering, it's basically worth it. At least it's a way forward, you know? At least it's a way forward.
I don't know if you've ever seen Jordan Peterson. This guy's such an intellectual. I had to watch this video like 3 times to totally get it. That's why I showed you the first video, because it sets you up for this video. So if you didn't really catch what he was saying, when people make decisions, they're trying to make decisions with, should I do this or not do it? And they're looking at the cost benefit of doing it, but they're not really measuring the cost benefit of not doing it, and then determining which is going to be worse for me, right? So I'll give you a simple example. This is example one that I deal with, okay? And yes, I have my issues. Probably have way more issues than you do, honestly. So texting while driving. Now, I'm sure all you guys are all pure. You guys never text while you drive. I know you don't, but sometimes I've been known to do it because let me just say that I'm a communication freak. I'm a communication freak. And okay, I have this bad habit. I keep telling myself I'm not going to do it, right? So let's look at this decision. Should I text or not text? The cost benefit benefit of texting while I'm driving is that I get the communication done sooner than later. I get people reacting and things are cooking, right? But if I don't text and drive, then I'm not communicating. I get to my destination, and so that's like 7 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, of being incommunicado. And you might think this is, what's my fear there? My fear there is I can't wait 15 minutes. What happens is if I need to get this out, I'm going to delay their decision by 15 minutes so they can go on with their lives. They get an answer. Like, I'm with a client, Alex. I need the decision right now. Yeah, you could say, well, why don't you just pull over? Yeah, I should, but I don't. Okay. So let me tell you the fear. That's not big a fear, but let me tell you a bigger fear. The other fear is if I continue to text and drive, okay, I could kill someone. Like, there could be a 10-year-old riding his bike in front of me. I wouldn't see him and I'd run him over and he'd die, right? So the cost benefit of not doing it all of a sudden becomes this fear that if I continue doing it, someone can die. And how can I live with myself knowing that I killed a 10-year-old the rest of my life, that I was responsible because I was texting the damn phone, because I couldn't let someone wait 15 minutes for me to get to my office and then take care of business. So what fear should motivate me? The fear of not communicating timely, or the fear of killing someone? Which do you think I'm going to let motivate me? That which I fear the worst. My life would not be the same if I killed a 10-year-old kid on a bicycle. And my mind conjures up me having to report this, and then their parents coming and they're looking me in the eye going, what are you thinking? What were you doing? Texting that agent about what carriers use credit cards and which ones don't was worth the life of my 10-year-old. Okay, is this starting to make sense to you, what Jordan Peterson's video is about? So let me bump it up to something more real. So tell me, letting fear stop you from dialing the phone and getting good at this business and letting all those ego things, what's your alternative? And I alluded to it before. The alternative, and you should fear this, is living a life of mediocrity for the rest of your life. Living a life of not realizing God's potential that He put in you. Living a life of low self-image, low productivity, mediocrity that you're giving to your children. If God blesses you with children, God help you if you instill that habit of mediocrity into your children so they become losers like you for the rest of their lives. Imagine not breaking the cycle of being a loser, of living a life of mediocrity. Now, I know I'm getting a little bit tough, but I want you to think of the fear of that, the fear of being unsuccessful the rest of your life. Living a okay life, we're making enough to make our bills. You might be putting some money in a 401k until you realize when you're 55, you got 10 years to retire, knowing that you don't have enough money to retire, and you're going to have to work till you're 75, 80. And you're going to justify it. You're going to justify it because you're going to say, well, I wasn't really looking forward to retire. I just like working. You tell me what 80-year-old likes to work, like, labor. I don't know of anyone. That should be your fear. Your fear of living a mediocre life, not giving your kids what they deserve, and just living in mediocrity. That should be the fear motivating you to get rid of your ego, listen to people that are trying to help you, put everything you have into making this business work. Because the alternative, gang, I promise you, you look yourself in the mirror 30 years from now, you're going to say, man, what if I made something? What if I did something with that business? That's what you're talking about right there. So anyway, I hope this made sense to you. Again, thou shalt not fooleth thyself, the 11th commandment, right? So choose which fear motivates you to do the right thing. Okay. So anyway, appreciate y'all. God bless, gang. Take care.